The Nigerian oil and gas sector has been an area of much interest, especially the non-performance of the refineries, despite millions of dollars poured into turnaround maintenance, with very hazy projections on when the refineries will begin to work, if they ever will. In an exclusive chat on the Global Business Report on Arise News, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Sylva, assured Nigerians that the refineries will be repaired, also adding that the petroleum industry bill will soon be ready to be passed by the House. But in a reaction to comments by the minister that unions have not been helpful in supporting the turnaround of the refineries, the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, and Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association, PENGASSAN, have strongly reacted, claiming the minister is not covering up for his own non-performance. Joining me to discuss this is the former president of PENGASSAN, Comrade Peter Esele, to give his own views on the role of unions. You're welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us on the show. Reading the recent press statement by NUPENG, PENGASSAN, can you help our viewers understand what exactly the issues are here?
I think what the issues are is very clear. There are rules of engagement. When the minister comes out and say the unions are not helping, and the minister even alluded to the fact that they also want to fire a couple of staff, the rules are that the rules of engagement is that you follow through your collective bargaining agreement. And when you follow through bargaining agreement, both NUPENG and PENGASSAN will sit with the GMD, and then they all look at all the issues on the table. But what the minister says is just creating more problem for the administration, because the union right now will now have to dig in, because they just felt that they are being thrown under the bus.
And if I can just follow up on that, you're a former president of PENGASSAN. Do you think the unions are too powerful? Because he was referring to, of course, the issue of the salaries, not being able to, cut off staff if they don't pay. Do you think they're too powerful?
No. It's not a matter of the union being too powerful. It's just the fact that the minister and the management are what I would call dereliction of duty, that they've actually abdicated their responsibility. If refineries are not working, how do you hold the workers responsible? You work for Arise. If your cameras are not here for you to work, would they hold you responsible? It's the responsibility of the management of Arise to provide cameras, to make your workstation to be conducive for you to carry out your assignment. So if these things are lacking, you don't come out and say workers are responsible. And everything the minister has even said, in this era of COVID, 800 contract staff has already been laid off. So why is he saying that they can't fire people because the union are holding them down?
Okay, I can accept the analogy you're giving there, sir. Okay, so you've mentioned, we're talking about the refineries. All Nigerians want is for these refineries to work. So how, in your view, is that best achieved? One thing
I've learned over the years is that government says one thing and they do something different. But I'm hoping that this will be the last that we're going to hear. These refineries are going to start working. If you look at the way the union act, is that we don't say union don't say this is APC government or this is PDP government. Union says this is government. And what we've had from 1999 is that we've always been having refineries are going to work, refineries are working at 30%, refineries are working at 40%. If you go from Obasanjo to President Jonathan administration to Yar'Adua, and to now to find out how much have been expended in turnaround maintenance, millions of dollars have been expended on that. So if it's not working, then it's still the political issue. Politicians are still the people responsible for all of this. Say Kaduna Refinery has not been working for the past 3 years. That is what they say. First, let me congratulate the GMD of NNPC. For the first time in about 40 years, you have an audited account of NNPC. Which organization will you run for 40 years and you don't have an audited account, and yet you come to blame the workers?
Okay, fair enough. But if we look at this from revenues and costs, as the minister said, unions have not allowed rationalization of staffing as refineries are unproductive. So do unions expect the government to continue to keep staff on hand, not doing anything?
This same government you are talking about just employed 1,000 new staff in NNPC. So who is bloating the staff in NNPC? You see, whatever we are facing today are the choices that we made yesterday. If your choices are wrong yesterday, you will also face whatever it is. If they made the right choice yesterday, we will not come here. So what you have now, you are saying you want to rationalize workers, and yet you just recently employed 1,000 workers. So how do you put that? When you were employing these workers, you didn't know that you were going to have issues? So now, immediately you employ these 1,000 workers, they automatically become union members. And it is responsibility for the union to stand up for its members. And there are CBAs for laying off, for God's sake. So if you want to lay off any workers, you go to your CBA.
Okay, well, I wanted to follow up on that. But many progressive oil economies in emerging markets, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, they've benefited from the gains of privatization. If I'm to present to you that unions are against privatization, why would it be so? And, if it will bring in capital growth to grow the sector and create jobs, why would they be against privatization?
It's the government that I will tell you that is against privatization. I'll take you back. The unions have always said NLNG model. PENGASSAN has, even the sitting president of PENGASSAN can also speak to that. PENGASSAN has a document in-house where we'll be emphasizing NLNG model. We all look at NLNG and see the progress NLNG have made over the years. Because what you have is 51-49 privatization. That is what the unions have been talking about over the years. But what government is bringing to the table is different. Is it transparent? Unions want transparency.
Okay.
We don't want what happened, unions don't want what happened in the privatization of power, whereby powers were given to friends of those who are in power, and right now, even the government is paying trillions of naira as subsidy for us to even have the epileptic power supply that we have.
Okay, so you've mentioned transparency. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources on the exclusive interview with us, he said the petroleum industry bill, the reform bill, will soon be presented to the House. What are unions expecting? Is it transparency, have you said, or what would they like to see? What else would they like to see in that bill?
Now, first thing you need to ask yourself is what is in the bill? If you want, I'll give you an example. I was part of the foundation of that bill. It was called Oil and Gas Implementation Committee, which later became the OGIC, moved from OGIC to where it is now. Now, if you are not saying you want to pass, what are we seeing? What is in the bill? Are there stakeholders meeting before you send it to the National Assembly? Now, National Assembly also said they're going to pass these laws as soon as they get it. What are they passing? So if anything is shrouded in secrecy, then you know transparency is missing. That's where the unions are worried. Sometimes when you now see the unions are agitated, the first thing you get is that, oh, these troublemakers are here again. But the unions are also stakeholders in the Nigerian project. They have a stake, they have families here. So they want Nigeria to succeed. But what the government is doing is how transparent what you are doing. That is what the union is always clamoring for. It's not for you to come up and you throw it at us as if we are not Nigerians. There's nothing wrong in calling PENGASSAN president or calling them and say, this is where we are going. Unions are ready. As I'm also talking to you now, there are also recruitment going on in PEF. So at the end of the day, you find out that we do things, and then when things don't go well, you now look for a scapegoat. I think what they are doing right now, what the minister did in his interview, I also watched the interview, is that the minister is looking for a scapegoat. And the unions are the ready scapegoat for him to talk about.
Okay, you mentioned government reaching out to the unions and saying, okay, let's talk about this. Does the flow of dialogue, does it not go both ways?
That's why we say it's tripartite. You have employees, you have employer, then you have government. So if government has an issue that they want to push forward, I will tell you this, PENGASSAN, NUPENG, TUC, NSC have been very fair to this administration. They've been very, very fair, and I think they've also been very lenient with this administration, and they'll be very supportive of this administration. So for the administration to now come up and say, we want to lay off, and then you've not allowed them to know. There are some OGIC, oil and gas, some of these OGIC, IOC's company you are looking at in Nigeria at the moment. What are they doing? They negotiate with unions. Everybody knows that with COVID-19, there are a lot of challenges right now. So, and everybody is looking for solutions. Unions want the company to survive. Because if companies don't survive, your members can't pay dues. And when your members can't pay dues, when your members are jobless, they can't pay dues. So the union too cannot survive. So we're in a relationship that is symbiotic. We need each other. But when somebody wants to act, and part of the tripartite want to run it down the throat of the other partner, then you are going to have a resistance.
Understood. So is there, I mean, if you look at what's been happening around the world with, job losses, British Petroleum, so on and so forth, is there any avenue to where if the dialogue you're talking about, bringing them to the table was to happen, the unions can actually see that cuts have to be made because of the fact that the refineries are not being productive? If as you are calling for, the dialogue does happen, can that destination still be arrived at?
Yes, I will tell you the unions are open for discussion. But what the unions will not take is that you don't push things down their throat. We are in this country when Element Petrochemical was also privatized. The unions cooperated. And I know that there was a time even Shell had to lay off, and Shell came up with Save Our Future, SOFU. And then, yes, Shell came up with Save Our Future, SOFU. The union cooperated. A lot of members also lost their job. And there's also what I call make the union an offer that they cannot refuse. If you do that, you get things done. But the way the Minister of Petroleum went on is that he's just standing on the wrong footing. I think he will need to do a lot of PRO with the management. When I use the PRO with the union, to reach out to the union and also let unions know that, okay, fine, based on what he has said, that may not be what he actually meant, because the tripartite must meet for anything to happen. All
right. Final question for you, sir, is still on the reunion, on the refineries. I say reunion. The refineries. Is, in your view, too much being expected of the Dangote refinery, or can Nigerians still look forward to others besides his in operation for the good of the country?
I think I personally look forward to Dangote refinery. Dangote refinery may just be a catalyst for NNPC to sit up. It's not just about the workers in NNPC. The workers in NNPC are qualified and competent, but they don't have things to work with. When the refineries don't work, it's not the workers' fault. So if Dangote refinery comes up, that is going to make NNPC to sit up, because the entire refinery is under NNPC. Dangote refinery is far bigger than that. And so if you look at the fact that we've not done things the right way, so we are paying for it today. So I'm looking forward to Dangote refinery coming up, and maybe that will also make government to also sit up.
And with regards to the price, if I can ask you about the PPPR and the price movements in fuel. There was initially some pushback with regards to fuel climbing back up to 143 naira per liter PMS. I wanted to just find out if you're in line with those who said this isn't the right time, or you felt that this was in line with market dynamics with crude oil rising. You
know, you and I had this conversation a while ago. I said the challenge is going to come when the price of crude oil starts going up. Now, the biggest challenge that we have is ordinarily when, if all things being equal, you expect things to go this way. You expect that when the price of crude goes up, the price at the pump station will also go up. But there are other things that in other societies that we try to compare ourselves with. There are other incentives, social palliatives that they make available to the ordinary citizens. For example, the price of crude can go up, and in the UK the prices are higher for you to buy at the pump station, but you have cheaper transport system. So you have cheaper transport system. The healthcare system also works. There are a lot of other areas, other incentives that makes it easier for the citizenry to take whatever is thrown at them. But in this part of the world, everything we do revolve around petrol. You don't have power in the house, you have to get petrol. Your company is not running properly, you have to get petrol. If you have a bigger generator, you have to get diesel. So most of these things that we go through, that is why you always have resistance to price increase.
Okay, in 30 seconds, sir, I'll see if I can get you to agree with the minister on something. He said oil marketers shouldn't be allowed to completely set prices. Do you agree?
Yes, because the oil marketers are there to make business, and if you give businessmen the opportunity, all they want to do is make as much profit. So I agree with the minister on that, and I disagree with every other aspect of his conversation.
We appreciate you being on the show, sir. Former President of PENGASSAN, Comrade Peter Esele, thank you so much for joining us to talk about the exclusive interview that the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources had with Arise News.